And really looking forward to tonight's show. Fight Night Picks, kicks. Make sure you head on over to the website, fightnightpicks.com. We've got all sorts of great stuff. The full card betting guide, the full previews, the podcast, episodes of Early Stoppage, and might I add, you should check out the store. There's all kinds of great products over there. We have the new shirts, new merch dropping all the time, including that new red Under Armour t-shirt. So head on over to the website, fightnightpicks.com. And as we always say, let's get into it. Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick onto any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clelin Ferrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.
Oh boy, and Matt, we've got a big weekend of MMA coming up. We've already got some money in the super chat from Goofy Willie, and Matt, might I add, that chat is going insane. Cam Williamson's here, Cameron Lyle's here, MD Gaming, you've been hanging out too. Bailey Ripplinger, you're here every single weekend. Adams, JATX, Laos, Nan. We got Phoenix Graves, as always, manning the chat. Canadian company, but it's all in USD. That's weird, but hey, they want to sell to the States. It's good stuff. I actually have my Vertiball right here, and I actually went for a massage earlier today, but maybe I'll Vertiball it out a little later on. But overall, Matt, really interesting card. We have 14 fights coming up. Of course, Rafael Alves taking on Pat Sabatini. That fight's off the card because Rafael Alves decided, I want to be a lightweight in a featherweight fight, and then miss the lightweight limit. So overall, it should be a great card, headlined by none other than the two guys up on screen right there. You got Curtis Blaydes, you got Derrick Lewis. Matt, I know you like this card. We got Daniel hanging out from Romania. James is asking for the parlay. And let me say, the Fight Night Picks, kicks, two-legger parlay is back. Everybody's ready to get into it. We've got a lot of likes already. Holy smokes. Keep those super chats coming. And Matt, I will let you take it over. I mean, Marlon Z's hanging out here for the first time, so that's crazy. Lionheart is giving us the picks. Let's get into it, as everybody's saying, Matt. Overall, it's a great card.
It really is, and when you look at this main event, it's a fight that really has to happen at the in the heavyweight division, because Derrick Lewis at this point, he's fought pretty much everyone in the top 15, win, lose, or draw, and same thing with Curtis Blaydes. They're both stuck in this weird logjam that we've had because you've had those Stipe DC trilogy. Now John Jones is getting the next title shot, so this should probably be a number one contender fight, although we know the winner is going to have to take another fight or potentially wait out over a year. But it's a great fight because stylistically, the way that these guys match up, it's really interesting. We've seen Curtis Blaydes get cracked. He has a good chin, but we've seen Mark Hunt put him on wobbly legs. Mark Hunt put him down, and we know how hard Derrick Lewis can hit. But with Derrick Lewis, I've seen him get taken down. I've seen him get taken down relatively easily. So it will be really interesting to see this fight, and especially how it does progress. If Curtis Blaydes, if he is able to get a lot of his wrestling off, will that tire him out? Will it tire Derrick Lewis out? I'm really excited for this fight, and I'm more so excited about what the fight looks like if it does get past that second round marker.
It should be a great one. We're going to be referencing the picks at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram. I throw those out there Saturday morning. The pictures that you're going to see next to us over there, you can vote on the poll, and then we're going to reference those numbers as the show goes on. We'll talk about some of the odds too, because of course they've shifted during the week. I know there are a couple people asking about the fight between Charles Rosa and Darrick Minner. I see that line continues to move on Charles Rosa. Danny Chavez's line's moved more than 50% already, so there's been some big movers and shakers this week. M Daily 119 saying, hoping you have Derrick Lewis in the parlay. No, I do not. MD Gaming saying it's a great fight, that's for sure. Blaydes is an actual question mark fighter, 100%. Alex hitting us up in the super chat saying Allen Brothers have massive members. I don't know about that. Ask my wife. But Matt, we'll talk about our fight of the night. We'll go to the fight of the night screen. Of course, we're keeping it with the 2 fights that we had earlier on this week. Nate Landwehr taking on Julian Erosa. If I know anything about Nate Landwehr, from his time with M1 Global, he would take chances. From his time in the UFC, well, he's almost doubled down on that one. This guy's an absolute wild man. He'll throw his hands down and he'll kind of bait you in. Julian Erosa is the type of guy that can actually get it done on the outside, which you don't often see. And when he pushes the pace, he does a great job. This should be a great fight between these two guys. And really, it's been a toss-up all week as far as picks were concerned, as far as votes were concerned.
It really is. And Nate Landwehr, really interesting. I like your comp, too. Most fighters, when they get to the UFC, they become a little bit more reserved because of it. They're fighting at the biggest stage. They don't want to lose as badly. So you will become, I hate to say boring, but you will lose some of the excitement that you might have had earlier on in your career. Nate Landwehr said, screw all that. I'm going to keep on fighting in my same crazy ways. And that is going to keep you in the organization, win, lose, or draw. And that's kind of what Nate Landwehr is starting to go towards. Like, I don't really care when he does win or when he loses. If he keeps on having fights like he did against Darren Elkins, I'm going to be here for them. Julian Erosa, though, he can just go through adversity. That's the best way to describe it. And in his last fight against Sean Woodson, listen, Sean Woodson was like a minus 700 in that fight. We both thought Woodson was probably going to knock him out. It was not going to be a competitive fight. But Julian Erosa, he not only has the toughness, he has the game plan too. And when he sticks to a good game plan like he did in the Woodson fight, he can fight, I'd say, above the level that his skill set should. So I'm really excited for this fight.
We're really looking forward to this one. Let's move into our second pick. Of course, these Fight of the Night screens, always presented by Manscaped. Head on over to the website, manscaped.com. Use promo code FMP. You're going to save 20% off and get free shipping. Make your testes your besties. And of course, as Alex threw out that super chat, I will talk about my nuts later on in the show. But we look at this fight here, Matt. Drako Rodriguez taking on Aiemann Zahabi. It's a fight that we were really excited about. It's a fight that we previewed a few months ago, and then it got pushed around. And then the fact that Drako Rodriguez missed weight coming into this one really throws a wrench into all of it. But I do expect Rodriguez having missed weight, making his UFC debut, being such an exciting fighter, I bet he goes out there and goes like full psycho mode, like a Nate Landwehr. It could get him caught. Aiemann Zahabi, I've seen it in the interviews. I've seen it out there. He wants to stick to his game plan. He wants to make this a fun and exciting fight himself. I think this should be a great fight.
I really do too. And I gotta be honest, I picked Drako Rodriguez. Maybe the pick might change because of the weigh-in, but this should be a really fun fight. Aiemann Zahabi can just sort of fight everywhere. And he's a good defensive fighter when he uses his footwork. And when he does use his footwork, he can have an entertaining fight with pretty much anyone in the division. And for Drako Rodriguez, listen, you gotta make weight. That's the first thing that is the most important. But I do think you're right. I think him missing weight with this being his UFC debut, it'll kind of overemphasize everything he already does well. He's already gonna be that crazy man. He could go out there looking for an early finish, but like you said, if he does do that and if he's not able to get it, you're gonna have a very, very gassed fighter for about 2 rounds. So a really interesting fight.
All in all, I mean, we've got a lot of people tuning in. We got 2 great picks for possible fight of the night. We'll flip it back over to the Fight Night Picks question mark card. And the way that this show goes, I know Adnan's asked a couple times, do I have a parlay tonight? I do, and I will talk about it as we go up through. But in typical Fight Night Picks question mark kicks fashion, as I said to open the show, we'll go bottom to top. We'll talk about every fight. If you come in late, you know at the end, we're going to recap all of the picks. We'll talk about them once more, and we'll go in depth with the votes over on @FightNightPicks on Instagram. Laos Non saying Zahabi hasn't been doing so well, same as his brother.
Right.
Yeah, his brother's gym's been having a rough go there lately. So, Matt, if we start at the bottom of this card, we have Sergey Spivak taking on Jared Vanderaa. M Daily 119 hitting us up in the super chat with $5. We appreciate you. So let's get into it, as Eldar says. Let's begin. We'll switch it up. So Sergey Spivak taking on Jared Vanderaa. This is a fight that we had previewed a couple of months ago. We were getting ready for it, and Jared Vanderaa can really get it done in a lot of different ways, and he's the type of guy that has plenty of finish wins coming into the UFC. A guy that maybe you expected in the UFC a little bit earlier on. I know I kind of had my eye on him when it's an American from California fighting with EFC. Little odd. So you go back and you look at his record over his last 5 fights. So 1 loss to Renan Fahea. That guy looks very impressive. You look at some of the wins. Ruan Potts, that I know we talked about in the original video, but a UFC vet. Tony Lopez, and then Harry Hunsucker in his last fight, which was a little tricky. Didn't really love that last fight out of Vanderaa. I know he's able to go in there and get the finish, but Harry Hunsucker wasn't the greatest of opponent. And listen, I don't want to really kind of bog him down for that. I agree with James, though, over in the comments. I didn't love that one. Sergey Spivak, his UFC debut, he looked bad. But he fought Walt Harrison. He got finished. Matthew Moore hitting us up in the Super Chat.
We
Super
appreciate you guys.
Super Chat is going nuts today.
Yes.
Sergey Spivak, you know how good the Sambo is. His striking's obviously not his best weapon, but He definitely has takedown abilities. Jared Vanderaa, if his takedown defense is on point, he has a good opportunity in this fight because he kind of has that staying power. But I really do like Sergey Spivak in this one. And I will get to Cam Williams' question after you give your analysis on this one.
Why, thank you. So, just be really quick. The only people who beat Sergey Spivak are better Sergey Spivaks, if that makes any sense. He's one of those grinders. He does like the top control. And for Spivak, too, you look, Marcin Tybura was able to beat him. But you go back and watch that fight. Marcin Tybura beat Sergey Spivak in the way that Sergey Spivak beats most other guys. He drained his gas tank. He took him down. And I think now, I don't want to say we might be the reason for this, but Marcin Tybura is starting to get some respect on his name. And he is one of the top fighters in that division. So losing a decision to Tybura is not going to end your career by any means. I love the top pressure of Spivak. I like his submission game. Yes, he is going to struggle when he fights those upper echelon guys who can defend his takedowns and force him to become a striker, but I just don't think Jared Vanderaa is that fighter.
Cam, I'm going to answer your question in the next one because the guy missed weight in the next fight. I just want to go back to @FightNatePicks over on Instagram. In terms of the votes on this one, 74% of voters going with Spivak to 26% going with Vanderaa. That's good for 288 total votes on Spivak to 101 for Vanderaa. Not a big surprise there. If we have a look at the odds, Matt, Spivak is about a -250 on most sites. He opened a -225. There was some money that came in on Monday on Vanderaa, and since then it's been a steep decline on Sergey Spivak. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody going with Jared Vanderaa in the comments section. Usually there's a few contrarians there, but I'm sticking with the pick of Sergey Spivak in this one. Branch Above's hanging out. And you're with Spivak as well.
Yeah, I like Spivak more than I probably should. So I do think he's going to beat Jared Vanderaa tonight. Hopefully they will give him a ranked opponent after this too. There's not a lot of ranked guys, or there's not a lot of people outside the top 15 in heavyweight. So eventually he will get another chance at one of those guys with the number next to their name.
All right, Matt. We'll move on to our next fight. And this is where Cam's question comes in. So he says, what do you boys make of so many fighters missing weight? Coincidence or scale/user error? Usually if a fighter knows that they're going to miss weight, I don't know if anybody's noticed this, and we've got another $5 in the super chat from GOD Gaming One's Definition. Thanks for doing the legwork. Appreciate that. And Jace, and somebody who says Spivak and Doc is very talented guys. I think that's going to be a lot of the conversation this weekend. The Spivak, the Dawkins, and then the fight with Tom Aspinall and Andrei Arlovsky. But I really want to answer that question. So, what do I make of it? Well, usually if a fighter knows that they're going to miss weight, they weigh in behind on a digital scale, and then when they walk out, or it could be an old mechanical, but they walk out and then they say, hey, like, I actually weigh 160, and then you see them move it across, so they kind of have an idea of where it's going to be. With Alves, it looked like that. I hate to see it. I really didn't like that, but in the fight for Rodriguez, with Jared Gordon, with Katelyn Vieira, I don't know how their camps went. I mean, for Gordon, he was down at Sanford MMA. Looks like he's been there for a little while. For Drako Rodriguez, maybe a smaller gym for him, but it's weird.
It really is, and they weren't just minor weight misses. Like, there was 3 fighters who missed by over 5 pounds. It's insane. And especially, you look at the Katelyn Vieira one, that one's weird too, because you're the co-main event. You don't really get a better spot in your position than you do right now for Katelyn Vieira. If you beat Yana Kunitskaya, there's a very good chance you will be fighting for a title soon.
Or a rematch with Irene Aldana.
Or a rematch with Aldana. But again, there's these fighters who are in these really great positions. Same thing with Jared Gordon too. What you said about Sanford, if it was like he'd only been down there for a little while, this is his first camp there, maybe it would make sense. He didn't have the greatest training camp for whatever reasons. He's been there for a while though. He doesn't really have an excuse to miss weight by this bad. And he's missed weight at 145 before. If you've missed weight at a weight class, gone up to a weight class, made that weight, and then come down, if you ever miss weight at that weight class again, you should never be able to fight there. So Jared Gordon should just be a lightweight from here on out. It sucks just because stylistically, I doubt he matches up all that well with a lot of lightweights. And Drako Rodriguez too. Stylistically, this was a pretty good fight for him, and for him to miss weight, it might not affect him as much because it might actually help him with his style, but I'm so surprised that this many fighters miss by that much. Normally, you'll see a fighter miss by a pound, maybe a pound and a half. We saw 5 pounds, 12 pounds, just crazy amounts of weight.
And, I mean, Cam making a good point, being from Landwear's gym, I can promise you he's never had a single issue making weight. For him to come in at 146 and all the misses show you something was up, maybe it's just a coincidence. I like to think it's all coincidence. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the other ones, but still, it's just odd. The other one, Porson Proper 12 out for Andre, Rip the Pitbull, Aspinall by Brutal KO. All right, so, and then another super chat coming in from Garrett. Let's get into it. You're taking Rodriguez and Spivak. Holy smokes. So let's answer James Sturt's question really quick. And he cancels. There's only one fight that's off. It's that Alves fight between Pat Sabatini. I went on Pat Sabatini's Instagram there yesterday, and he was flying back to Philly. So, unfortunate for him. Hopefully we get to see him in the UFC, because I like his style. He makes for a lot of fun fights. But with this one, there are a couple of different commenters saying that Helwani and Zahabi look very similar. Well, they're both from Montreal, so they have that. But yeah, in this fight, Aiemann Zahabi, there were a few other people saying Zahabi maybe doesn't belong in the UFC. His losses were a long time ago. We saw his last loss about 4 years ago, or sorry, his last win in his UFC debut against Reginaldo Vieira. Way too close of a fight than you'd want to see, but he made marked improvements in his next 2 fights. It's just he lost them. Like, he had some instances in the fight against Ricardo Ramos, and then spinning back elbow 1, spinning back elbow 2, he's knocked out, and then he's been out forever. So for Aiemann Zahabi, it'd be awesome to see him get a win. I mean, not just from a Canadian perspective, but from a personal perspective for Zahabi. I still like Drako Rodriguez in this fight. The only time we've seen Rodriguez look bad was in the fight against Tony Gravely, who has a big fight coming up. But Gravely took him down and just mopped the floor with him and wrestled him the whole time, and Rodriguez had zero answer for it. Zahabi's not really the best wrestler out there, so yeah, I've got Rodriguez.
It's not a perfect comp really between Rodriguez and Zahabi, but I'll be interested. I really do think the weight miss will have something to do with this fight, because for me, the first thing I always assume is they didn't have a good camp. Something went wrong in their camp. They had an injury. They weren't able to train as hard, and that's why their weight was out of balance. So that's always in the back of my mind. It's a winnable fight for Aiemann Zahabi. I do think if he just stays on his bike, really uses his footwork, he has decent boxing, but I don't know what it is. If it's the last name, if it's the tri-star connection, I'm always expecting more out of Aiemann Zahabi. Like, he's not going out there and he's not throwing on these clinics, striking-wise. He's not the perfect, well-rounded fighter that we kind of expect coming from that gym. So maybe it is just I'm a little bit left down and I have bad expectations for Aiemann Zahabi. I was kind of going back and forth on this, especially after Rodriguez missed weight. I think I will stick with Rodriguez, but again, I would not be surprised at all to see Rodriguez go out there, have a great first round, and then just sort of see Aiemann Zahabi overwhelm him with his volume those last 2.
Cam, we appreciate your support over there in the chat. I don't have any Fight Night Picks hoodies. I'm wearing the original Fight Night Picks t-shirt.
It's a good-looking shirt.
From 2018. That's a terrible shirt. But yeah, you can pick up some of the stuff over there at the store.
The new ones look good.
The new ones look pretty good, and you can support the sponsors if you want to support the team. Akash Deep's hanging out in the chat. Bailey liked the Gravely clip. We're both going with Drako Rodriguez in this one. If you look at the votes at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, 231 total votes Rodriguez, 161, 62 for Zahabi, so it's 59% Rodriguez. And in this fight, Matt, Drako Rodriguez is the favorite, almost a 2-1. The money came up on Zahabi throughout the week, and then after the weight miss, went back down for Rodriguez. So interesting to see that. But yeah, we're both going with Drako Rodriguez. Matt, our next fight, we have Chaz Skelly, the scrapper. A few more grays in the hair this time out. Taking on Jamall Emmers, very well-rounded fighter. And for Jamall Emmers, we talked about the camp at Pinnacle MMA. The Bobby Greens of the world are our training partner. You also have one of the most disappointing fighters in the entire world, in Darrion Caldwell, in that camp. I'd love to see Darrion back at the top of the world, but all he does is wrestle. So for Jamall Emmers, he has the striking. He has good wrestling defense. Like, it's funny. All those guys out of that camp each bring in a different wrinkle, and then it's like, well, Jamall Emmers took the basketball from Space Jam and then sucked all their powers out of it. So I'm going to go with Emmers in this fight. I'm keeping my pick there. Chaz Skelly has an opportunity. I know he had that weird fight. Who was it against where he just kind of lunged in and had an anaconda choke? Like, he's got some weird ones, but I like Emmers here.
Chaz Skelly's going to have an opportunity to win this fight. The problem is his striking is quite poor. And it's not like he has a lot of weapons to throw at you. He is just a really high stance boxer. He'll get himself out of position if he does try to go for anything really wild, if he does try to throw combinations. He's not great defensively, and that worries me. If you're Jamall Emmers, you can decide where this fight takes place, because although Skelly is a good grappler, I don't think he's the better wrestler than Emmers. And it's funny, I saw a tweet that was Darrion Caldwell's won bar fights by unanimous decision. Hilarious. But Jamall Emmers really is just, he's not a perfect version of that camp by any means, but he's such a well-rounded fighter. He's a great striker. He's got the grappling. He's got the wrestling. I see Chaz Skelly being able to put Emmers in difficult positions throughout this fight, kind of similar to the Nick Lentz-Evloev fight that we saw just not that long ago, where it was Movsar definitely won the fight, but Nick Lentz would put him in a few different positions where you were a little concerned. I could see this being similar to that, but yeah, I like Emmers a lot.
James question, who did Emmers fight his last time out? Well, he was booked against Timur Valiev, and that was supposed to be a big fight, and I remember we were really excited for that one, and then he ended up fighting Vince Cachero, who has a fight coming up back down at bantamweight. So look out for Vince Cachero his next time out. But yeah, he moved up on short notice, fought Jamall Emmers. He got out-wrestled the majority of the time. I think Emmers had 6 total takedowns in that one from memory. And for Chaz Skelly, beat Jordan Griffin a year and a half ago. Like,
And Chaz Kelly's not the youngest guy ever, too. So with that amount of time off, it is a little bit concerning. And Jordan Griffin, at least he's a decent comparison to Jamall Emmers. Like, if you fight Jordan Griffin, he's not the wrestler that Emmers is. But other than that, he will get you ready for some of the other sort of games. That was a year and a half ago. And Chaz Skelly is, unfortunately, almost 36. So he will have an opportunity, like I said. But I like Emmers a lot.
All right, Matt. The votes at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram. 283 for Jamall Emmers to 112 for Chaz Skelly. That's good for 71% Emmers. I do see some people taking Skelly. Oh, Jace makes a great point saying that Skelly and Glover fight pretty similar.
But Glover has insane hands.
I like the boxing out of Glover a little bit more. I was going to say that as well. Matt, let's have a look at the odds just for fun. Jamall Emmers, pretty big favorite too. So he opened at minus 140, now at minus 246. Emmers, the second biggest mover and shaker on this card at 43%. It's weird. I mean, you have Spivak as a decent favorite. Rodriguez is a decent favorite. Emmers is a decent favorite. We've been kind of going underdog searching the last little bit, and so it hasn't worked out. I'm sticking with Emmers. It has nothing to do with the odds. I just think he has more opportunities in this one, and I like his boxing. I like him to incorporate the kicks as well.
I agree. He's the more well-rounded out of the two, and if he can just defend a lot of takedown attempts and make this a striking battle between these two, I love the striking of Jamall Emmers a whole hell of a lot more than I do the striking of Chaz Skelly.
The comment over there, how crazy is the roster for UFC 259? It's insane. F. Carrillo saying, how can we make a donation? Just hit up the super chat over there. Garrett did it. He's a comment underneath you, Matt. Our next fight is one between Shana Dobson and Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill making her UFC debut. She is Australian. Skazi. I can't get that out of my head. It's an odd thing, but you look at this fight here between these two, and this was the hardest one for me to try and get a read on all week. I have zero confidence in the pick. I could see Shana Dobson going in there and either outboxing poor Casey O'Neill or out-wrestling Casey O'Neill. Or I could see Casey O'Neill going in there, making it a dirty, grimy fight, pushing it up against the cage, working her really weird takedowns, and then just kind of out-grappling Shana Dobson. So I could see one of those two things happening. But again, I have such a bad read on this one. Casey O'Neill didn't fight the highest level of competition on the regional scene, and she didn't look that good on the regional scene. And it was weird because I went through and checked out the YouTube analytics early on in the week, and I think Casey O'Neill in her camp, and a lot of people that know her watched that video because there were spikes in that one, don't like that. But yeah, I've got Casey O'Neill in this fight. Shana Dobson, again, the record is not the best, and you might not love it. And it's probably not going to be one of the best fights tonight.
Wow.
But OJ's saying it's going to be a controversial split decision. I can see that too. Are you having cold feet on this one? What's your take?
I don't really have much of a take, if I'm being honest. You set it up quite well. You have Shana Dobson, who's 4-4 in her MMA career. And here's the thing. You look at her losses, and they are against a decent level of competition, but she did make good account of herself in those losses. And even in her wins, she hasn't looked all that spectacular. You look, and yes, I understand she has the most power in the division. You cannot tell me with any analytical proof that Shana Dobson doesn't hit any less hard than Valentina Shevchenko. But you look at those wins, and yeah, in her last one against Agapova was completely gassed, just couldn't get up. It was less of a TKO and more just, I kind of quit, say uncle. And then the Ariel Beck fight was kind of the same thing. She hit her with one good shot, she went down. I think Casey O'Neill's going to win, but I'm not that confident.
The comment there, Jacob Davis, she's with Tiger, though. You feel Casey's strike will be sharp. She was with Tiger O'Neill. Who's that? Like a golfer?
Yeah, that was...
She was with Tiger Muay Thai, but she hasn't been there for quite some time. She's trained for this fight in the States, between Extreme Couture and 10th Planet. So I actually like that maybe even a little bit more than Tiger Muay Thai, because her striking, if you watch it, it's not that crazy. Todd makes a good point. Take a little break. I used to take naps sometime. This might be a nappable one.
He was a big nap guy in the prelims.
Way back when. Sugar C's hanging out, and Cam saying John Castaneda is one of the most disliked fighters in the promotions. Brandon Schaub. I don't know about that. So, Matt, if we're making the pick here, let's have a look. Let's see what the voters are thinking. 64% going with Casey O'Neill versus Shana Dobson. And Casey O'Neill minus 155 favorite or thereabouts. She hit as low as minus 230. All week the money's come in on Shana Dobson. I'm sticking with Casey O'Neill here, but again, I have zero confidence in the pick.
Yeah, Casey O'Neill will probably win this fight, but again, Shana Dobson, her fights have been weird in the UFC, so get ready for a possibly very weird outcome.
All right, Matt, let's move into our possible fight of the night. We have Nate Landwehr taking on Julian Erosa, and Big Papa was able to get Dobson last time out, but yeah, that was tricky. Matt, you're hating on Shana Dobson. Yeah, I mean, you had over an apology last time.
No, listen, She always does better than I think she's going to do, but that just kind of tells you where my expectations are to begin with. And I'm really sorry, if Shana Dobson's watching, you're a better fighter than I'll ever be. But I just don't think you're going to be Casey O'Neill tonight. I'm sorry.
All right, Matt. So Nate Landwehr, Julian Erosa. When we made the pick originally, I believe we were split on this one. I think we were. I went with Julian Erosa. I think you went with Nate Landwehr. In terms of the votes at Fight Night Picks, 32% Erosa, 68% Nate Landwehr, which surprised me a little bit. And then I look at the odds and they're really close. Nate Landwehr at one point was a minus 159. He's a minus 125 right now. That line's moved about 22% in favor of Julian Erosa. And I gotta say, I still like Julian Erosa in this fight. I know Cam Williamson, you're coming from the gym with Nate Landwehr, so relay the message back to him, maybe? I love watching Nate Landwehr fight. I just think this is a tricky fight. And for Nate Landwehr, he takes too many chances. Like, he's a risk-averse guy, but no, he's not.
But here's the thing. I don't think Julian Erosa can take advantage of a lot of those holes. And the holes that Nate Landwehr is going to give you are in the striking realm more than they're in the grappling realm. If Nate Landwehr was more of a wrestler, and I know he has the wrestling in his back pocket if he wants to go to it. He has that kind of crashing into you style anyway, so he's already got the momentum. But he's not going to go for a crazy takedown heavy game plan against Erosa. If he did, I could expect Erosa to maybe catch a neck or something on the way down. But for Erosa, he has decent striking. He needs space to get most of it off, though. And for Nate Landwehr, he's never going to give you that space. It could be the first minute in the first round or the last minute in the third. He's not going to get tired. He can fight at that crazy, hectic pace throughout. And we've seen Julian Erosa. When you do keep it crazy, he can outlast a fighter. He can outlast a good fighter, and then his skill set will take over. I just don't see him outlasting a guy like Nate Landwehr. I could see Landwehr maybe getting a little tired at the end of the third, and Erosa starting to mount a bit of a comeback, but I just don't think it'll be enough to get the win. So I'm going to stick with Landwehr, although I'm glad we picked this for Fight of the Night, because I really do think it's going to be fireworks.
All right, Matt, you're going to go with Nate Landwehr. I'm going to go with Julian Erosa. I'm going to keep the pick where I was at, and we'll be different on that one. Let's move into another fight, and I'd like to know what people are thinking about this one in the comment section, because, well, the comment section's going absolutely insane. I mean, we have over 500 people tuning in, 105 total likes. You gotta toss the like, you gotta toss the sub. To know when the boys are going live, you hit the bell icon, and you'll never miss a question mark kicks. And when there's a pay-per-view, well, you'll never miss our pay-per-view fight companion. So join in for all that stuff. There's a lot in the comments section going on about the Haas fight against Imavov. Somebody called him Ivanov earlier. Blagoy's got a big fight coming up. But overall, you look at this one right here. Eddie Wineland, former WEC champ, former UFC title challenger. I went back and saw that poster the other day, and it got me fired up for his fight against Renan Barão. But you get John Castaneda, the sexy Mexi, coming out of Minnesota. He's taking on Eddie Wineland. You know exactly what Wineland's going to do. Hands halfway down, fighting like an old-timey boxer, cracking everybody in sight. And the thing is, he throws pretty hard. His cardio's not terrible. John Castaneda, in and out a little bit. He's a southpaw. He's got a wider stance. I would think if you got a guy like John Castaneda, maybe he keeps his head back and he just starts throwing a lot of kicks to slow Wineland down. I mean, this isn't 25-year-old Eddie Wineland. This is deep 30s Eddie Wineland. I have John Castaneda in this one. I know it seems like everybody's pretty well split. What are you thinking?
Here's the thing. Everyone's saying Wineland glass chin. You're not wrong, but you're forgetting the power he has in his hands, too. Like, if you want to get in the pocket and try to crack him, you're going to have to eat a shot at one point. Eddie Wineland, even at this stage of his career, he's not a guy you want to just be going in there having wild, long, drawn-out exchanges with. If Rodriguez... Listen, my pick is Rodriguez in this fight, but he's going to fight a smart fight. He can't go in there just expecting a brawl, getting a big highlight reel win over a decent name. He has to go in there. He still has to be fairly technical. And again, I think if he does, just really stick to the calf kick. It's interesting because Eddie Wineland can switch stances. So if you do beat up one leg, he will be able to go to the other one. But even if, let's say he beats up the right leg of Eddie Wineland, if Wineland puts that to the back, he now won't have any power on his own shot. So it's more of a style matchup than anything. But yeah, I like Rodriguez a lot. This is going to be a fun fight.
You like Rodriguez?
No, sorry. I like Wineland in this. I think he's going to be able to take it. I know. I've been going back and forth. I do. I like his boxing on the inside, and I like his body shots. They're an underrated part of his game. It's the only underdog pick that I've kind of gone back on, just because I didn't really have any on this card. But I do. I think he'll be able to get it done. I know John Castaneda. He's got an overall game plan. His overall skill set is more well-rounded, and he probably can win because of the chin of Wineland, but I do think he's going to have to get into one of those exchanges at some point, and Wineland's going to catch him.
John Castaneda, one of the biggest movers and shakers this week at 38%. He opened a plus 130 underdog. He's now at a minus 125 favorite. For Eddie Wineland, he opened up the favorite minus 150. He's now at a plus 102. Matt, you're all over the place. Sean McMahon.
Yeah, I said that's my bad. Sorry, I meant to refer to Castaneda.
All right, that's all right. John Castaneda at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram. 59% of the total votes, 41% Eddie Wineland. I'm sticking with the pick of John Castaneda.
Maybe I'm sticking to the good old days of like Matt Brown and Eddie Wineland. That's what it is. But to me, those guys are never going to lose again.
Yikes. Some people are asking about the, oh my goodness, the question mark kicks parlay. It's coming up later on, but it's on a couple of the fights that are coming up later on. So we move into our next one, Matt. You have Drakkar Klose taking on Luis Pena. This fight, to me, is almost in that same realm as the Shana Dobson fight against Casey O'Neill, where I'm not 100% sold on Klose in this one. You look at the level of competition so far in the UFC, he's beat the guys he should beat, and he's looked fairly dominant in some of those fights, but whenever you've had Drakkar Klose taking on a really high level of competition, he hasn't been able to win. So this is one of those ones where it's almost like dirt in a pond. Where's it going to settle? And you're taking on Luis Pena. Coming in on short notice. It's tricky.
I think Drakkar Klose is the best fighter Luis Pena's ever fought. I don't think Luis Pena is the best fighter Drakkar Klose has ever fought, but still, I'm kind of coming at this fight with the same point of view that you do. I don't know who's going to win because Luis Pena is such a weird X factor. He does throw a lot of weird unorthodox techniques. He has a good ground game. And that's the thing, too. We saw Drakkar Klose struggle with some of the grappling exchanges against Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush is one of the best grapplers in the UFC. That's going to happen, so you can't really draw a lot from that fight. Klose does really well against guys like Luis Pena, but he also sort of struggles against them. I know it's weird. He has more success with his boxing against rangier guys, but sometimes on the outside he will eat some leg kicks and he will kind of get pieced up until he's really dedicated to his game plan. So if Luis Pena can stay on his bike, I think he has a path to victory. The problem is, Luis Pena doesn't have a phenomenal gas tank, and Drakkar Klose, it's not like he's some cardio king, but I know he can fight a good, solid 3-round fight. And that sounds like, oh, well, of course, most UFC fighters can, but even at lightweight, there's not a ton of guys who can just, I know for 100% fact, they can go a good 3 hard rounds. Drakkar Klose is in that category. I just like him by decision, to be honest. I think Luis Pena is a dangerous fighter to fight, but Drakkar Klose, he's sound defensively. Don't look at the Beneil Dariush fight. But yeah, I like Klose in this. I think he has a higher ceiling. I think he's fought better competition. And for Pena, I've always believed in him probably a little bit more than I should have. So maybe this is the first time that I'm having some violent Bob Ross withdrawals. But I'm excited for this fight no matter what.
I'm keeping with Drakkar Klose in this one. Again, it's really tricky. It seems like a lot of people over in the comment section are going with Luis Pena.
I'm kind of surprised by that, honestly.
Let's talk about the odds, because a few people said take the over. The over pays minus 490 and minus 400 on certain sites at an over 1.5. So that one's a little tricky. If you go with the over 2.5 rounds, it's minus 270 if you think it's going to go to decision. I don't necessarily love it. For Drakkar Klose, he opened minus 135. He got as low as minus 210. He's now minus 165. So late money is coming in on Luis Pena, who opened a plus 115. He's now at a plus 138. Again, a lot of people going Pena. Craig P. Higgins is not. You're out there in the chat every week, Craig. Bizarro Craig. And 261 total votes for Klose to 159 for Pena. That's good for 62% over on the YouTubes. I'm going with Klose in this one. What's the final take here?
I'm picking Klose, but I think people are underrating Klose, to be honest. I understand it's a close fight, no pun intended, but like, you gotta remember, Drakkar Klose has been in there with much better guys than Luis Pena. He's fought the Marchikases. No matter where you want to put Marchikase, he does fight kind of similar to Pena, and I'd argue he's a much better version. Like, Klose has been in there with some great guys at 155, and it's a little concerning for Pena, who, yes, he's fought an okay level of competition, but for you to fight to a draw with Matt Frevola isn't all that impressive to me. So yeah, I like Klose probably more than most people.
All right, Matt, we're both going with Drakkar Klose in that one. Our next fight, this one's our featured prelim. You've got Jared Gordon taking on one really tough out in Danny Chavez, a guy that will chop your legs down, and this is one of those fights that's very difficult now, because Drakkar Klose came in 5 pounds, or not Drakkar Klose, it's still up on the screen in front of me. That's why I'm screwing up. My screen's over here. Jared Gordon came in 5 pounds over. Don't love that when it's a guy that wants to wrestle against Danny Chavez, who's a striker. Now, Danny Chavez is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so that's always great to see. But Jared Gordon can just implement a game plan where he just lays and prays, and that could be the fight. Yes, he'll move position. In his last fight against Chris Fishgold, well, Chris Fishgold's a great grappler. He's a very credentialed grappler that's competed in Polaris before and lost to Marcin Held, who's a very good grappler. So for Danny Chavez, this is now a really difficult fight, and this is one of those ones that if Jared Gordon wins, I can see the comments flooding in. You guys are idiots for taking Chavez. I couldn't predict a 5-pound weight miss a week out. I'm sticking with Danny Chavez in this one, but I still don't even love that.
This is a tough pick, and I'm going to disagree a little bit with you, but I'm going to follow sort of the same path. I think it's a big advantage for Jared Gordon missing weight because he is a wrestler. If he is able to get the takedown, I think his cardio will be worse because of the weight miss, of course. And I'm sure, again, something probably happened in camp. There could have been an injury. He's not coming into this fight 100%. We're not going to get the best version of Jared Gordon. But if he is able to secure a takedown, he's going to be that much heavier in that top position. It'll be interesting if he can't, though, because we've seen Jared Gordon get cracked in the past. And we've seen him get cracked really in almost all of his fights, I'd say, and he does not respond very well. I go back to the Charles Oliveira fight, and listen, he shouldn't have even been in there with Charles Oliveira, and not that Danny Chavez can fight like Oliveira, but he is more of a Muay Thai striker, so he will throw those leg kicks, he will have a bit of a high stance. Jared Gordon couldn't get any success off against him, and I know Oliveira, a much longer, a taller fighter, he's also ranked like number 2 in the division right now. But Jared Gordon, just when he does fight those good strikers, he has good wrestling, but not great wrestling. And if you have any takedown defense or really good footwork, you can turn Jared Gordon into one of those boxers. And the thing about Gordon is, if he knew what he was good at, and if he did just try to get the fight to the floor more often, I'd probably like his game a lot more than I do. But he will get into a brawl, and he will throw hands with you. This is not the fight that you want to be doing it. I like Danny Chavez quite a bit.
You like Chavez. I like Chavez. The Rachel Ostovich card has been pulled out there in the comment section. 246 total votes for Chavez at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. 149 for Jared Gordon. That's 38% Gordon, 62% for the man himself, Danny Chavez, looking to get a second win in the UFC. If we look at the odds, Danny Chavez, the biggest mover and shaker this week at 51%. He opened at a plus 155. He's now minus 132. Late money coming in on Jared Gordon, and that's understandable because of that weight class, or that weight miss. So that's a really tricky one. Davidson Baker, you're the man over in the comments section. You get it. Former member of Between the Links, which is now on a different network, and we have early stoppage, so look at that. Yeah, you're going with Chavez. I'm going with Chavez. A lot of people going with Gordon. I don't like the weight miss, Matt. This is where the Fight Night Picks Kicks parlay starts, Matt. Tom Aspinall, one half of the Fight Night Kicks Kicks parlay. I'm taking Tom Aspinall to win this fight. I like his volume. I like his footwork. I like his jiu-jitsu. I like his wrestling. I like Tom Aspinall a lot in this division.
Do you like the fact that he's fighting a 41-year-old?
I think the fact that he beats Andrei Arlovski, if he gets a win like that, boom goes the dynamite. We're into the top 15, or we're knocking on the door. So I like Tom Aspinall in this fight a lot. I think that some of the issues that Bozer had against Arlovski, Aspinall can just even go back and watch that fight, because really, that's the Arlovski that we've seen the last 5-6 fights. It's pretty much the same guy.
5-6 years almost. And that's the crazy thing. Like, Arlovski's had 9 stages in his career. Like, most guys, okay, you get to a title shot, you may win or lose said title shot, and then you have the second half of your career where you could be a top 5 guy for the rest of your career, or you end up kind of falling out. Andrei Arlovski's been all of those things, and it's really wild because he's not at like heavyweight GOAT level by any means, but he did win the UFC heavyweight title, held on to the title for a while, was one of the sport's bigger stars in his infancy, and then went away, fought Fedor, comes back, fights Brendan Schaub, and Andrei Arlovski is now fighting Tom Aspinall. It's been one of the weirder careers in all of MMA, and for Arlovski, just at this stage of his career, we have seen him change up his style so much. We've seen a more wrestling side of Arlovski in this later half of his career. We've seen him go a lot more volume heavy than power. The last outcome of this fight is Arlovski by TKO, I can tell you that. And for Aspinall, I agree with you. The Bozer fight, when Bozer did move forward and actually throw strikes, he had a lot of success against Arlovski. And Arlovski, he's really good at throwing when his opponent just kind of covers up, because he's really good at... He won't stay in the pocket and wait for you to throw the counter. He knows he doesn't have a great chin, and he has good enough footwork, even at this age in the heavyweight division, that he can normally throw his shots and get out of the way. But for Aspinall's one of the better boxers in the division. He's going to have those reads. He's going to be able to get through the defenses of Arlovski at some point. And I do see this. He probably won't knock him out as fast as Jairzinho did, but I doubt this is going to be a competitive fight.
All right, Matt, let's have a look at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. 83% going Aspinall to 17% going with Arlovski. That's 376 total votes for Aspinall to 74 for the former champion and Andrei Arlovski. Tom Aspinall right now open to minus 275. Some money came in on Arlovski, but right now at this point, minus 262 for Tom Aspinall. For Arlovski, a plus 210 or thereabouts. And yeah, I got Aspinall on a minus 250. That's the first leg of the Fight Night Picks Kicks parlay. So there's 1 of 2 right there. Let's move into our next fight, Matt. We have the sniper, Nasruddin Imavov, taking on Phil Haas, Megatron, just like Calvin Johnson. Those poor Detroit Lions fans. Your team will probably not be good next year, just like the Eagles. But Matt, we look at this fight. Phil Haas, power in his hands, really good boxing, half-decent footwork, maybe not the best cardio. Nasruddin Imavov, weird cardio, not that I love it. Decent pressure, decent volume. He's been cracked in the chin a couple times, and if you want a fun fight from Nasruddin Imavov, either the Jonathan Meunier fight, UFC vet, lost the fight to Colby Covington, had a weird brain condition, they wouldn't let him fight again, or the fight that he had his last time out against Jordan Williams, that's a good one too. People calling this fight of the night, First Loss saying that it could be. It's a tricky one, and this is another one. It seems everybody's split on this fight. Phil Hawes had to pull out from the original fight due to an undisclosed injury, so we'll see how that plays effect here, whether it's a cardio thing, whether, he was soreness, whatever it is. Hawes, Imavov, Matt, what are you thinking?
This fight's not going to go the distance, because both fighters can get cracked because they are so power heavy. And for Hawes, I think his power is almost a get-out-of-jail-free card for him, and against some of those upper echelon guys, you're not going to be able to get away with it. And I'm going to go outside of the weight class, but it's a decent example, I think. Ilki Talaba has crazy power and is a great get-out-of-jail-free card. Then one day you fight Magomed Ankalaev, and he has really good technique and also a ton of power. And you just kind of realize that you need more than just to be that big, scary guy who can knock anybody out. And Imavov has the knockout capabilities too, but he's going to leave himself open when he goes for any flurries or any real good techniques that can put Hawes down. But that's going to open up the holes for Hawes. So not that we're going to see a double knockout by any means, but this is probably the highest likelihood on the card to have that happen. I like Imavov because of the variety of shots that he throws compared to Hawes. For Hawes, it is a lot of boxing combinations, and when Hawes goes to the body, by the way, really nice body work, and that'll take a lot out of anyone's gas tank. He doesn't do it enough, though, and you'll see this in fights all the time where, the commentary will be screaming, hey, he's been landing the calf kick. Why doesn't he throw it more? For Phil Hawes, it's the same thing. If he wasn't such a headhunter, I'd like him a little bit more. But I think this is going to be a phenomenal fight. I really do.
You look at Phil Hawes, last run, and you look at some of the losses, too. They're against guys that the Luis Taylors. He lost to Julian Marquez. Those are the two. He's on a nice little win streak. He beat Michael Wilcox 6-3. He beat Dominic Schober 11-7. Yuri Fraga 13-10-1. He beat Kadzimierad Bastayev over on Contender Series about 5 months ago. Knocked him out silly. And then he finished Jacob Malkoun, which is a fight that they paid you, or they made you pay. But really, they should have paid you. The guy was 4-0, and nobody wanted to fight old Jacob Malkoun. And Phil Hawes predictably finished him. For Nasruddin Imavov, he beat Gregor Wabel. He beat Francesco Demontis, who was 1-2. You don't like that. Mateusz Gulch. And then he beat Meunier, who, listen, I like Meunier more than a lot of people like Meunier. I love the win for him there. And he beat Jordan Williams by decision. I thought he looked good. I'm agreeing with Branch above. It's one of those technique versus power type of fights, and I'm going to go with technique in this one. Listen, power can win out maybe 5 times out of 10. It's one of those type of fights, so it is a tough one to try and figure out if you're looking at it analytically. 62% of the fans at Fight Night Picks on Instagram going with Hawes. 263 total votes for him to 164 for Nasruddin Imavov. And in terms of the odds, Matt, on this one, have they moved a whole lot? Am I looking for them? Phil Hawes is the favorite. He opened a -118. He's a -124. Imavov somewhere around a +100, +105. So yeah, I'm going with Imavov. I like the stick and move. I like the fact that he can wrestle. I like that Sean Williams just hit us up in the super chat saying, keep up the good work, guys. The super chat's been insane. There's 723 people tuning in right now and 152 likes. 2 seconds. Toss the like. We'll appreciate it. You'll be a Fight Night Pick fan for life.
Join the Fight Night Nation. Hit that like button. We appreciate it a lot.
Hashtag Fight Nighter Nation. Matt, let's move into our next fight. We have a great one between Alexei Oleinik and the man himself, Christopher Dawkins. Now, this isn't Kyle Dawkins. This is Chris Dawkins that just throws those nice long hooks when he goes out there. And this is one of those fights where every fight starts on the feet. So Chris Dawkins has a great opportunity. Andrei Arlovsky. Alexei Oleinik is the type of guy that just keeps throwing his hands out there to close the distance, to get you in. You know what's coming. That Ezekiel grab up against the cage, because most guys go for underhooks or they go for a single or double, but Alexei just brings his hands up and tries to pull guard on you, and he wants to go for that Ezekiel choke. Now, if you look at the amount of wins he has, Matt, 59 total wins. He's going for 60. He's going for what? He's a couple of submission wins away from 50. He's an insane fighter.
Yeah.
This is such a good fight. I love it. Laos Nan saying you don't like the Dawkins brothers.
I do.
I didn't pick Chris earlier on in the week, but I like them. They're good.
They are, and they don't really have any massive holes in their game, even though they are somewhat specialists, which is weird, because Chris Dawkins hasn't even shown us the best part of his game yet. He's been knocking everyone out in the UFC. Chris Dawkins is a really good black belt on the ground, and that's what makes this interesting. He shouldn't use it in this fight. If Chris Dawkins is going for a takedown attempt, I'd fire all my coaches, because Alexei Oleinik is one of the greatest grapplers in MMA history, and Alexei Oleinik is one of those fighters who, the second you think he is done, okay, I'm not going to pick this undersized 47-year-old heavyweight to win, all of a sudden he completely surprised you and pulls off one of the craziest submissions you've ever seen. So I always am hesitant to completely write Alexei Oleinik off, say that he is chinny, say that his age is catching up to him, because you know that as a grappler who is such a high-level grappler like he is, he's always got something in the bag that no one else has ever seen that he can pull out. But Chris Daukaus, again, I don't know if I have him on my Tom Aspinall level of hype for heavyweights right now, but let's say he goes out there and KOs Alexei Oleinik. Like, Derrick Lewis is coming off a KO win of Alexei Oleinik. I don't think people realize just how big a win over Oleinik is, so I think Daukaus is going to win this. I think he'll probably win by TKO, which is unfortunate to say for Oleinik, but for Oleinik, when it goes bad, it goes very bad. And you do look at some of the knockout losses. The Walt Harris one, of course, sticks out in my mind. The fact that he did get outstruck by Curtis Blaydes throughout their fight is a little bit concerning, but I like Chris Daukaus a lot in this. I could see Oleinik maybe catching him with something wild, putting him down, and then having a similar finish to the Travis Brown fight. I think you would mention that in the prediction video. He can hit you with something wild because he does throw those big looping shots. If not pay attention on the way, you can get caught. But other than that, if Chris Daukaus just stick to a smart game plan, not go in there looking for the TKO, but if it presents itself, going for it, I think Daukaus all night.
Daukaus open to -140 favorite. He's now -199 average on best fight odds. For Alexei Oleinik, open to +120. He's now to +164. So the money's coming in on Daukaus. The votes at Fight Night Picks, 261 total votes Daukaus, 184 for Oleinik. That's good for 59% Daukaus, 41% for Oleinik. And Gaz is making a good point. Oleinik's been in the UFC since 2014.
Wow.
His first pro fight was in 1996.
I was born in 1998.
I was 2 years old then. That's insane. Listen, there's a lot of people going both ways, Oleinik and Chris Daukaus. I'm going to go with... it's a tough one. So you're sticking with Daukaus, right?
How's that fence you're sitting on, Craig?
You're sticking with Daukaus?
Yes, 100%, and I'm fairly confident in it, too.
I'm going Daukaus, and here's why. I'll switch the pick. I'm going Daukaus because I like the fact that he has a background as well, just like Tom Aspinall. He's got a background in jiu-jitsu. I love that, and the fact that, hey, Kyle Daukaus is a pretty good grappler, but we've seen the guys in the Philly area have very, very good grappling. And listen, it's a generalization, but I do
Paul
like
Felder.
it. Caitlyn Chukagian? Isn't she originally from Pennsylvania? By way of New York? She's kind of all over the
Can
place.
you name one good grappler from Philadelphia now that I've called you out? I'm sorry, but we're here
Sean
now.
Brady's pretty good.
I guess.
Pat Sabatini. We can just keep going. Yeah, I'm going with Daukaus in this one. Switching the picks. So, yeah, I'm going Daukaus in this fight. I think it should be a good one, Matt. Let's get into our next fight. This is where the second leg of the Fight Night Picks Kicks parlay comes into effect. We have Charles Rosa taking on Darrick Minner. Matt, Charles Rosa is my second pick in the Kicks parlay. I've got Rosa. I've got Aspinall. You add those two together, it's +110. And, yeah, we should see how it goes. Ben really doesn't like Chris Daukaus losing to Parker Porter. He didn't get knocked out by Parker Porter. He knocked Parker Porter.
He did.
So I don't know what you're going on about. You just keep throwing that one out there. But, yeah, again, Darrick Minner taking on Charles Rosa. I like Rosa's stance in this fight. I like Rosa's hands in this fight. I like Rosa's ground game in this fight. He doesn't have as many miles on the tank, even though he's older than Darrick Minner. I do like Darrick Minner's wrestling. We saw that in the fight against TJ Laramie his last time out. He was a huge underdog. He picked up the win there. But overall, Darrick Minner, there was one comment out there, and I had to laugh. Somebody said Darrick Minner lost to a fighter that was 5-6. He got submitted. And I went, okay, like, was this recently? Because I don't remember it. It was 7 years ago.
Oh.
So you can't consider that one. But Darrick Minner, it's either you get submitted or you submit some people. So what are you thinking here?
I think Darrick Minner's probably not going to get submitted in this fight, but I'm not going to predict him to win by submission. I think this could be a decision. I think it'll be a fun fight, though. I really do. I have high hopes for this fight, at least, because Charles Rosa, he's just an exciting style. He won't always have an exciting fight, but the opportunities that he presents, at least for his opponent, can make for a fun fight. Go back to the Shane Burgos fight. Shane Burgos, as a striker, is a much better fighter than Charles Rosa, but Rosa and his movement and just his overall style turned that into a really fun and competitive fight by the end. Now, yes, he got TKO'd in the third round, but he fought Shane Burgos, one of the best pure boxers in the UFC. So again, no shame in that whatsoever. I like Minner's wrestling in this fight, and for Rosa, he's a good grappler, but he's a victim of that Louis Smolka effect where he will lay on his back, and he won't always go for the submission. He'll just kind of lay there and lay there and lay there. Against a guy like Minner, Minner's going to be more than happy to just sit in your half guard, hold you down, throw some ground and pound, and not do anything crazy enough to really open himself up to get submitted. Again, he can, but I do think coming into this fight, you know how good Charles Rosa is on the ground. I doubt you're going to be taking any big risks, so I like Minner, although I wouldn't be surprised if Rosa wins this.
Raymond Luke is hitting up the super chat saying the Canadian Dream Team strikes again. You've got Klose, Dobson, and Drako Rodriguez for the win. I'm liking the looks of that one. Timothy saying that Rosa is boring. Going to be sweating the first round if you're on Rosa. I think I will either way. I know that, Charles Rosa's a little bit older, but again, he hasn't had a ton of fights, and that's the thing. I mean, he was off for long stretches, so he comes into this one. Let's bring up the Tapology votes, Matt. 2,731 total votes, 83% Rosa, 52% by submission, 40% by decision.
I have a theory.
If you look at the odds, Matt, Charles Rosa, a decent favorite. Like I said, I had him at minus 190. He's minus 187 or thereabouts right now in best fight odds. For Derrick Minner, coming in the underdog, open plus 125. He's now at a plus 156. What's the theory?
My theory is Charles Rosa's... I don't think any commentators influenced a fighter's career more than Jon Anik has Charles Rosa's. And it's just the Boston connection, because Jon Anik, any chance he gets, shouts out Charles Rosa. And if Charles Rosa didn't have that, he would just be another fighter on the UFC roster. Like, Charles Rosa would not stand out at all. But the fact that Jon Anik does go out of his way to always give him props, and I don't mean this as a negative. Like, I think it's a really great thing, and I think more guys should do it. I think you should give guys in, like, the prelims and earlier on in the card, like, more props. But Jon Anik always shouts out Charles Rosa, so I think there's a public perception around him where I think people think he might be a little bit better than he is, and I think Derrick Minner might be able to expose that.
Michael Rolfe saying, I'm not a UFC expert, but is the same Arlovsky that had long hair and fangs? Yeah, it's that guy.
It's Pitbull.
It's that guy. All right, Matt. Our co-main event, you've got Katelyn Vieira taking on Yana Kunitskaya. Katelyn Vieira came in at 138 pounds. I don't like that. Taking on Yana Kunitskaya. Again, for Yana, she's just a very well-rounded fighter. If you really wanted to give her a nice compliment, you go up to Yana, you say, congratulations on Thiago Santos, and oh, by the way, you're a very well-rounded fighter, and I bet you she would say, thank you. She has good takedown defense, she has pretty good wrestling, she has pretty good striking. Nothing that really pops, but she is good just about everywhere. For Katelyn Vieira, again, there was somebody that went out there, threw it in the comments section that judo sucks in MMA, and then I put a comment like Ronda Rousey and Kayla Harrison were pretty good at it, and it works in women's MMA because there's a lot of upper body throws. And Katelyn Vieira, the black belt in judo and the black belt in jiu-jitsu, bread and butter, and they've worked really well for her. She gets too happy with her hands because she trains at Nova União, and she did get caught by Irene Aldana, but in a fight like this, I still have Katelyn Vieira in this one. I don't love the weight miss, even though it's, 2 pounds over the tolerance, but yeah, I'm sticking here with Katelyn Vieira.
Katelyn Vieira is in that category of people think she's better than she really is, and I'll give away my prediction right now. I think she'll win this fight. I think she'll probably win by decision. I doubt anyone gets finished. But everyone put so much hype into her after that Sarah McMahon win, after the Kat Zingano win. Didn't she had this massive amount of time off and came back in the Aldana fight? But after the Zingano win, people were really calling for, Vieira might be next for Amanda Nunes. Now, thank God they never put that fight together, because that would not have gone well for old Katelyn. But Katelyn, there's this public perception around her that, she's that close to a title shot. Like, she could be one of those dark horses to beat Amanda. She's not. And I hate to break it to people, but she's just another one of... She's in that weird bubble right now of kind of ranked 3 until 10 at bantamweight right now. Anyone can beat anyone. If your name's not Holly Holm, if your name's not Jermaine Durandamy or Amanda Nunes right now, those 3 have kind of separated themselves as being by far the 3 best in the division. And then everyone else is kind of tied for second place, or tied for third place, I guess, because Nunes is so much better. I think Vieira is the way better grappler. I think Kunitskaya has decent takedown defense, so she might be able to force this into a striking fight, especially early on, too. The thing that concerns me from Katelyn, she missed weight, and she already has a bad gas tank, and she's super hittable. If I really wanted to simplify this fight to that much, I'd say put all your money on Yana. But for Katelyn, even in the Sijara Eubanks fight, Sijara Eubanks is an undersized 135er. She got really tired in that fight. She struck with her, and I wasn't overly impressed, to be honest. If you picked Yana Kunitskaya, I would not fault you at all, but I'm going to stick with Katelyn in this.
So there's a few people in the chat talking about Luis Pena's fight being off. Yeah, his fight's off. Well, so Luis Pena is not going to be fighting Charles Rosa, thanks to Phoenix Graves.
It's a card close.
And who else was out there that threw that one out first? I know Phoenix, you had it up there. Gazbach talking about it. There were a few people that had mentioned it. So yeah, Drakkar Klose and Luis Pena's off. I was looking forward to that fight. So again, Katelyn Vieira taking on Yana Kunitskaya. Let's have a look at the odds, Matt. Yana is an underdog. She opened a plus 235. She's now plus 220. A little bit of money came in on Kunitskaya. And for Katelyn Vieira, minus 275 and minus 275.
I'm surprised about those odds. I'd actually like to get your take on it, because I think this fight is much closer to a pick'em. Again, I'm picking Vieira, but I don't think people are giving Kunitskaya nearly enough chance in this.
So Katelyn Vieira, in terms of the votes, let's talk about that. At Fight Night Picks, 306 total votes for the Brazilian to 86 for the Russian fighter. So pretty much everybody's going with Katelyn Vieira. I'm going with her too. I think she's really good, Matt. Like, I go
That's
back,
fair.
I look at Yana's other fights. So, if we bring up the topologies and we talk about this one, Yana Kunitskaya, last time out, it was a short notice replacement, Yulia Stoliarenko. You knew that she was going to have the jiu-jitsu capabilities. She tried to pull guard. She tried to climb up with her back against the cage to pull in, like, a guillotine. Like, she went for weird stuff. But that fight, maybe not the most competitive. You lose to Aspen Ladd, who's right up there. You beat Marion Renault. You beat Lena Landsberg. So, how good's Yana Kunitskaya in this fight? Listen, I could be totally wrong. I could have a bad read. But to me, Yana's somewhere in that, like, 10 to 15 bantamweight area. And it's not a stacked division. And for Katelyn Vieira, you look at the wins. And again, maybe you're not as high on her as I am. Ashley, and I know we talked about this. Ashley Evans-Smith, Sarah McMahon, Kat Zingano, almost 3 years ago. You lose to Irina Aldana after taking a long time off. You get finished. Too happy with the hands. Then you beat Sijara Eubanks. Sijara Eubanks is pretty good.
Just for me, the apprehension that I have is, in my head, again, if I'm going to simplify this, if Kunitskaya can defend like 2 or 3 takedowns, I don't know if Katelyn Vieira has the gas tank to really be able to explode into that 4th, 5th, or 6th takedown attempt. And on the feet, Katelyn Vieira has decent striking. I know we keep on saying their striking is not that good. It's just because her ground game's so phenomenal, she should never be striking with anybody. And Andre Pederneiras is their coach. One of the best striking coaches in the world. He turned Jose Aldo into one of the greatest fighters ever. I just don't see it. I don't know. I think after that first round, if the weight cut was bad, if she didn't have a great camp, and if Kunitskaya can keep this on the feet, it's a very winnable fight for Kunitskaya. I almost switched my pick, although I think I'm going to pick Vieira.
The question, where does say Luis Pena is off on his Twitter? There was another comment, Clay, saying, yeah, Kunitskaya fought better opponents, even Evinger. Go back and watch the first fight that she had against Evinger, because they fought twice back-to-back. It's a weird one. And the question about the snapback, maybe flip it around as we get into our main
I've got
event.
a cool, it's a vintage Raptors purple one. Craig doesn't really like it, but I'm a big fan. I think it's cool. It's got the logo on the side. Yeah, Raptors, 4-game winning streak. They're playing well.
Curtis Blaydes taking on Derrick Lewis, Matt. This is a fight that we talked about quite a while ago. Now we actually have it. You have a really tough out in Derrick Lewis that so far in the UFC, you look at the losses, he's getting finished, but he's taken on really top opponents, and he's fought the best of the best for a very long time. And you look at Curtis Blaydes, well, it's pretty much the same thing. Since he's been in the UFC, it's just win, 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 well, you're going to lose to Francis Ngannou. Win, 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 well, you lose again to Francis Ngannou, and then you got to win some more. So if you look at Curtis Blaydes, you know how good the wrestling is. You might not like the striking, offense or defense. You might not like Derrick Lewis's takedown defense. That's what makes this such a fun fight, because Derrick Lewis seemingly can pop right back up to his feet no matter how late the fight goes. You like Derrick Lewis in 5-round fights, maybe even more than you do in a 3-round fight. And for Curtis Blaydes, you probably like him more in a 3-rounder than a 5-rounder, but you did see it his last time out. He was able to kind of last. The 4th and 5th were a little dicey, but his takedowns in that fight against Alexander Volkov were amazing. Lewis, all it takes is that one shot. But again, for me, I still have Curtis Blaydes in this fight.
About a year ago, if you would ask me who was going to win between these two, I think the fan of Derrick Lewis in me would probably say, oh, well, Derrick Lewis by TKO. And then we kind of learned what we do now, where I'm done picking people who just have more power than their opponent. Because I think Derrick Lewis has more technique than, again, he gets credit for, because people look at him and they're like, oh, he's just that brawler. Well, that's not true at all. Like, Derrick Lewis can throw wheel kicks as a 260-pound man. Do you know how difficult that would have to... Like, the level of athlete you have to be able to do some of the things he does in the cage is absolutely insane. And Curtis Blaydes, yes, he has the wrestling, and I think he does have the cardio advantage. I know I've been giving him a hard time for the cardio, but if you're the one going for the takedowns, and I don't think Derrick Lewis is the cardio of Volkov. I always go back to the Volkov fight, but this is the thing, too. Alexander Volkov just doesn't really get tired. He can fight at a really high output, 4 or 5 rounds. He's one of the anomalies in the heavyweight division where cardio is just not going to be an issue for a guy like Volkov, or it is for Lewis.
I just wanted to bring this up, and you kind of talked about it almost. You almost touched on it. So Curtis Blaydes came in 259 for this fight. Derrick Lewis came in at 263. And if we look at Derrick Lewis's last time out in that weird fight that he had with Alexei Oleinik, he came in at 265. And he said that he wanted to kind of start cutting weight. And now he's here at 263. Like, it's great to see, but he's still a heavyweight that has to cut weight. It's weird. Like, you expect him, maybe one day it'll happen.
How many times, like, what were the over-under be for how many times we say weird in a Derrick Lewis prediction video? Because it's just been the story of his career. I've never seen a fighter lose 2.5 rounds just to come back and win in the third more. And it's a really fun thing to kind of be known as, but it's really hard to become a champ being known for that. And for Derrick Lewis, I go back to the DC fight, too, because DC... Who's the best wrestler Derrick Lewis has ever fought? Well, of course, it's Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier doesn't wrestle at all like Curtis Blaydes does. DC, I'm not going to say he's more technical, but he's more of that finesse wrestler. We'll go for the single legs. He's got more of a Greco-Roman where he goes for the ankle picks and whatnot. Curtis Blaydes goes for a lot of more traditional single and double leg takedowns than DC does. So if you look at that DC fight and you're a little down on Lewis's takedown defense, I wouldn't be, because DC, if you go back in that fight, DC put on an absolute wrestling clinic. Like, he ankle picked Derrick Lewis at Madison Square Garden. That's just disrespectful to do. That's like shooting a 3 and turn around before it goes in. You shouldn't be able to do that. For Derrick Lewis, if he can defend a few takedown attempts, and really, you need to make Curtis Blaydes respect you early on. I think that's the key for Derrick Lewis. If you can crack him with something big and hurt him, just to get it so he's not just going to rush in and go for those takedown attempts. Because with Blaydes, we've seen him TKO guys on the feet like he was able to with JDS. But JDS, A, is extremely old, and B, was so concerned about the takedown attempt that he would just drop his hands completely every time Blaydes even ducked a little bit. And then Blaydes did that classic Chad Mendes, I'm going to duck, come over top with a right hand, and look what happened. So I think there's going to be opportunities for Derrick Lewis to win, but I unfortunately can't predict him to win. I'm probably going to see Blaydes by win. It might be one of those weird, like, TKO victories where he's just sort of holding Lewis down. Lewis can't get back up to his feet, and he's hitting him with some ground and pound. But, yeah, I think Blaydes has got this one.
Curtis Blaydes open a minus 300 favorite. He's now minus 421. He's one of the biggest favorites. He is the biggest favorite on the card. Derrick Lewis open plus 250. He's now at a plus 322. And if we have a look, Matt, I know there's a lot of fans out there that like Lewis to the tune of 30% at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. 70% Blaydes, 30% Lewis, 330 total votes for Curtis Blaydes, and 141 total votes for Derrick Lewis. So yes, Matt, I'm going with Curtis Blaydes. You're going with Curtis Blaydes. Let's recap the picks, and let's just let the fans know. Drakkar closed. Luis Pena is off, according to Luis Pena's Twitter. He posted that that's unfortunate. And listen, when your balls are hot, Matt, if they're hot, you could use our presenting sponsor, Matt. We are always presented, and the Fight of the Night screen is always presented by Manscaped. Who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, Matt? Manscaped. They're the greatest. Big news. They just released a new cologne scent to help you feel good and smell good over and at all times. Who knew smelling this good could feel this good? Manscaped, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement. Listen, you've heard me talk about them before. I'm going to talk about them on this screen a little bit. Check out the Perfect Package 3.0. There's a Lawnmower 3.0. The awesome light. You shave your balls. You can see exactly what you're doing. I'm a shower shaver. You can use this in the shower. Don't worry about it. You want to smell good? Derrick Lewis wants your balls to smell good. You need the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant. You also need the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. So use it. Check it out. Manscaped.com. Promo code FNP. You get 20% off and free shipping. And now, Matt, they also have great stuff. The cologne scent by Manscaped. You can up your grooming game with that. Same signature scent as the ball smelling good stuff. It's on all the Manscaped formulas. It's perfect complement to your collection. Light, approachable, gentlemanly in all the right ways. Think of it as your wingman for the night to keep you fresh. And it's the greatest. And listen, Bailey Ripplinger saying that we should give... They should give us a raise. Maybe they should. This wildlife loves it. It's great stuff. So check it out. Check it out. Manscaped.com. Promo code FNP. You're going to get 20% off. You get the Perfect Package 3.0. You get the Weed Whacker. You get all this stuff. Ben's saying toner. Yes.
How can you forget about it?
But if you look at the Weed Whacker, I'm shaving my nose on air, Matt.
I can hear it.
Most people won't do it, but I'll do it. Everybody seems to love Manscaped. Carter B likes it. So manscaped.com. Promo code FNP. 20% off and free shipping. Help support the boys. Let's keep talking about this card. People seem to like the ad read. But, Matt, if we go back to the question that's at hand, there was one up there from Julian saying, what was the parlay? Aspinall and Charles Rosa. That's the one that I've got going for tonight. Sergey Spivak's taking on Jared Vanderaa, Matt. We made a prediction video about this one a long time ago. We revamped it. We re-upped it. Still sticking with Sergey Spivak here, I am.
I like Sergey. I'm probably too high on him than I should be, but I like Sergey in this fight. Jared Vanderaa just hasn't shown me anything that shows he can beat a guy like Spivak. And it's not like Spivak's going to, really blow your hair back or wow you or anything. But he's at least decent enough to be one of those bubble top 15 guys, I think, on a worse day. So, yeah, I like Spivak.
All right, Matt. So you've got Spivak. I've got Spivak. The question from Johnny Boy. Yes, this is what we do on Saturdays. And then we do a fight companion if it's a pay-per-view. And then we have other stuff down the pipeline. And if you want more shows, because there's been a few people that have been like, hey, where's the recap? Hey, where's This Week in MMA? You let us know. I've got some crazy plans for that stuff. And that's all I'll say. Aiemann Zahabi's taking on Drako Rodriguez. Matt, Aiemann Zahabi, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since he got a win. Does he have a chance? I think he's got a chance.
He has a chance. I think the chance of him winning comes more from his opponent missing weight than anything. And I think even I put too much stock into Rodriguez missing weight. I think he's going to be able to get this one done. For Zahabi, he's never been what I thought he was going to be in the UFC. And maybe this is the fight that's going to separate him and really show what he's capable of throughout the rest of his career. I just don't see it happening. I think he relies on his movement almost too much to the point where he becomes kind of a defensive fighter than an offensive fighter. And he become a little Caitlyn Chukagian-ish. I just like Rodriguez and his overall aggression in this one.
F. Creo, you found the super chat. We
Thank
appreciate you over there, pronto, and you can do that as well. Johnny Boy saying sick. We appreciate you. So we're both going with Drako Rodriguez. Chaz Skelly's taking on Jamall Emmers, and it's California versus Northern West Coast. Chaz Skelly?
Yeah,
I think I'm right with that one. So yeah, you've got Chaz Skelly, you've got Emmers. Emmers has more opportunities to win, I would think so. I like his hands in this fight. Chaz Skelly, if he's able to wrap something up, maybe he's able to get a win. But yeah, I like Jamall Emmers in this fight.
He's the more well-rounded guy, and he can keep the fight on the feet. And if you force Chaz Skelly to become a boxer for 15 minutes, you can probably beat him. So yeah, I like Emmers in this.
Both of us going with Emmers here. And Big Papa saying, honestly, don't know how you guys don't have a bigger following. Spread the word.
Everyone, just tell one friend.
Post some of the videos at our MMA on Reddit. Let the people of Reddit see it. Next fight, Matt. Shana Dobson taking on Casey O'Neill. Ali, shout out from the UK. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
This is one of the fights that I have the worst read on, so if it's a loss, it's a loss. You can just chalk it up there. But you've got Shana Dobson taking on a really tough out in Casey O'Neill. But that's the thing. Casey O'Neill, I don't know how good she is. This is going to prove a lot of things. Devin, appreciate you in the super chat. Thanks as always, guys. Yeah, I've got Casey O'Neill, but if Shana Dobson won it, it'd be like, okay.
I never thought I'd say this, but Shana Dobson might be the best, like, perfect first opponent for Casey O'Neill, because I know, not that I know nothing about Casey O'Neill, but I'll be honest, I don't really know much about Casey O'Neill, not against high-level competition. She's fighting someone who's 4-4. She's not going to fight anyone who's crazy in the lightweight, or in the flyweight division for women, but she's not going to be fighting another regional fighter. I think she'll be able to get the win over Dobson, but again, there's so many unknowns going into this fight that it's really hard to make a super confident prediction.
All right, Matt, we need to get those likes above 300. If you haven't tossed one out yet, you should, because this is a possible fight of the night. Nate Landwehr is a madman, and he's taking on Julian Erosa that's been finished by Artem Lobov. He got knocked out in the first round of a fight with Artem Lobov, but I'm picking him to win.
Yeah, I'm not, unfortunately. I think if you've ever been TKO'd by Artem Lobov, I can't pick you. That's, of course, not why I'm picking Nate Landwehr, but the overall activity of Landwehr, the wrestling, the counter-wrestling, I just like what he brings to the cage, and the fact that he's not going to give Erosa any space to really make decisions on his feet. And I doubt the fight will ever make it to the mat anyway, so I like Landwehr. I think he'll be able to win probably a decision just by out-voluming Erosa, but I do think this will be a really fun fight, because Erosa, he's never going to be completely out of the fight. Like, you need to put him out if you want him to quit, so I think this will be a phenomenal one.
Craig P. Higgins. We can work something out. Nate Landwehr, yeah, that's a great fight. Eddie Wineland taking on John Castaneda. I gotta go back just a second. I gotta go back to that comment. There's a really good comment there, and we'll back the train up to Casey O'Neill's sparring partner of Loma. They're main training partners.
Which is a good sign.
If she was over at Tiger Muay Thai, but she hasn't been able to due to the situation in the world. She wants to go back there, but she's not. So she's stuck in the States right now. We'll see how that one goes for her. All right, Matt. We appreciate the super chat from GOD. Any chances for a first round finish?
Derrick Lewis?
Yeah, Derrick Lewis.
And that's the thing, like, he's probably not going to win, but if he is, it's going to be early. And there's not a lot of, like, heavyweight, light heavyweight, or middleweight fights on this card, and those tend to be where the majority of knockouts come from. If you really like Drakkar Klose, maybe you thought he'd be able to catch Pena at some point, but for first-round wins, no one really steps off the page for me, if I'm honest. This fight's a great one just because John Castaneda, he's got the leg kicks. He might be able to finish Wineland, especially because... But this one's another fight where, kind of like the main event, the main event, Blaydes could win by TKO if it's on ground and pound. Wineland could win via KO in the first round, but so... Again, there's so many fights that I just don't really know. I doubt any fights end in first round knockout, if I'm being honest.
All right, Matt. So on this one, yeah, I'm gonna stick with John Castaneda in this one. You're different in the pick.
I like Wineland. Listen, and this is the fan of me. I'm not going to lie. Like, Eddie Wineland's like Benson Henderson for me. I'm just never not going to like them. I think Eddie Wineland still has some of those veteran moves and tricks in his bag. Listen, if he gets caught clean on the chin, he's probably going to go down, but I'm just relying on that classic Eddie Wineland to hopefully be able to get through whatever adversity he faces.
Johnny Problems. James Lynch, the friend of the show. He's been on way, way, way back. So, yeah, friend of the show, James Lynch. Now, Matt, Our next fight is not Drakkar Klose and Luis Pena, because that fight is off the card. And from the comment section, Ryan Garber, you put down a few times that Otmar Zaitar just got signed back by the UFC. ESPN reported it. I mean, apparently, if you have Mission Impossible stuff going on, you get cut for a little bit and then you bring you back on. That's kind of crazy.
Round. No, sorry. Tom Aspinall's going to knock out Andrei Arlovski in the first round. There's the easy one. If there's going to be a first round stoppage, it'll probably be that one. Because Arlovski, we know how bad his chin is. And Aspinall, if he cracks you, he's not just going to burst out trying to finish you all that fast. But if he has you hurt, he's going to put you away.
All right, Matt. Jared Gordon taking on Danny Chavez. I don't love the 5-pound weight miss from Gordon. I don't love the pick of Danny Chavez anymore. My confidence is pretty well shaken because of that one. Because for Jared Gordon, if you saw anything from the face-offs, man, that guy's fired up, and so is Danny Chavez by that point. But if you look at our guy Danny Chavez, I love the leg kicks. We've seen that really take over the narrative in a lot of fights and analysis. And I'm still cool with Danny Chavez in this one, but I don't like him as much as I did.
No, I agree. Chavez. If you're a really good striker, you're going to have a chance to beat Jared Gordon. Just because he only relies on his boxing. He only really has good power on the feet. And he doesn't throw any kicks at all. Like, the game plan of Jared Gordon is I'm going to take you down and I'm going to try to use my ground and pound. But he doesn't have any, like, hellacious ground and pound like John Jones or Khabib or anything where the second he gets you down on the ground, you're going to pay for it for every second. He's not in that category. He will get you down. He'll try to work the half guard. He has a decent crucifix. He was able to get Hakron Diaz in that. But Hakron Diaz was like 45 years old, and that was his last UFC fight. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock into it. I like Chavez in this fight. I just think if he sticks to the leg kick and just keeps on going over the top with the overhands, I'll eventually be able to catch Jared Gordon. And from what we've seen, it's not like Gordon has a bad chin, but I've seen him get stopped enough times now that it's not out of the realm of possibility for him to get stopped again.
If this fight makes it to the third round, it's going to suck. It's going to be terrible.
You are right.
If you watch Danny Chavez fight with TJ Brown, the third round wasn't that great. So, Andrei Arlovski, Tom Aspinall, first leg of the Fight Night Picks Kicks parlay is Tom Aspinall to get the win over Andrei Arlovski. You're in agreement with Aspinall.
Yeah, I think Aspinall's going to be like top 5 for a long time. I'll let it be known right now.
All right, Matt. Let's move into our next one. Imavov taking on Phil Hawes. I'm going against the grain with Nasruddin Imavov. I like the technique over the power, but again, power is always that last thing that you can kind of keep in your back pocket and you can use it. But like I said, I still have Imavov here.
Yeah, again, you're going to go with the more well-rounded fighter than the one who has more power. And again, it's not like Imavov has pillars for hands by any means. Like, he'd go out there and definitely get a TKO win himself. Phil Hawes, if Imavov does start throwing a lot of his spinning techniques and leaves himself wide open, Hawes will make him pay at some point. But if Imavov can have somewhat of a reserved game plan in this fight, not to the point of don't go for anything, like don't just stand on the outside like Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou, but just be smart with where you do extend your energy, I think Imavov's got this one.
All right, Matt, we both have Imavov. Oleinik and Dawkins. I switched the pick. I'm going with Dawkins in this one. I had Oleinik. I'm kind of sold on Dawkins' ground game. He's a much better striker in this one. And as far as cardio is concerned, both these guys maybe a little shaky. But I'm still going with Dawkins here.
I like Dawkins. Again, I've been way too high on Dawkins throughout his UFC career, and it's weird because he's been the underdog throughout some of his fights, which is odd, but I can give myself a pat on the back for once. I think Dawkins can be able to get this done. The only thing I'm a little worried about is if Dawkins starts to tire, and Oleinik just does have that sort of, he fights like a zombie, just gonna march forward, never at a crazy pace or any means, but he'll just sort of stay on the same level the whole entire fight. If Dawkins starts to get tired and you see him on the back foot and he's starting to wear on him a little bit, you might be able to see a sub win for Oleinik in the last round, but I really like Dawkins. I think he's got the better hands, he's got the better wrestling. If the fight goes to the mat, I don't like Chris Dawkins to win by submission or anything, but he's at least well enough equipped on the ground to avoid any massive submissions right away from Oleinik. So I'm going to pick Dawkins. And again, I do think he'll be a top 15 or sooner, much rather than later.
Chris Terrano, we appreciate you. David Moore, I'm not an oracle, but I wish I was. Charles Rosa taking on Derek Minner. Charles Rosa, my second leg of the Kicks parlay. Rosa, Aspinall was plus 110, so that's what I went with. But this is a tight fight. And Charles Rosa, minus 190 favorite. I just like his striking more than I like Minner's, and I like the fact that he has a good ground game. Obviously, Bryce Mitchell was able to kind of outlast him in that one. If you look at Derek Minner, he fought a good level of competition. We got a lot of fighters like Derek Minner on some of these cards coming up, like, who is it, Kevin Kroom coming up next weekend. Like, I would put them in the same category. You look at Minner, well, of course, he beat Kevin Kroom. He lost to Kroom, he beat Collard, he lost to Burns, he beats Terrence McKinney. At the time, he was 22-10, taking on a guy that was 7-2. Then he beat Charlie Dubray, who was 15-13. He lost to Grant Dawson. Dawson was heavy in that one. And then he beat TJ Laramie, a good prospect. So Minner's kind of all over the place. But I like Rosa in this one, and I know we're split here.
I think Minner's just going to make this a boring fight. Like, I would like Rosa to win just because I think it would make the fight more entertaining, but I just think Minner has that wrestling game plan where he's not going to take any risks on the ground. He's not going to create any space for Rosa to try to get a submission off, so I hate to say it, but I see this fight being the worst outcome of itself. I just see Minner kind of rinse and repeat takedowns, and again, I wish I saw it the way you did. It'd be nice if Rosa could use his footwork to avoid some of that, but I just see Minner getting the takedowns and making this a snore.
Cody Keller is going with Rosa, saying it's a close fight, though, and they're setting Minner up for a pawn for decor. All right, Matt. Now, we have Katelyn Vieira taking on Yana Kunitskaya. And Matt, Katelyn Vieira, what do you think of her? It's kind of tough to tell. Yana's been around, had more pro fights. We've kind of got, enough tape. Well, you have enough tape on either of them, but you have enough an idea of exactly what Yana does well. With Katelyn, I'd say her boxing's improving, but she got a little bit too happy with it against one of the best boxers in the division and in women's MMA in Irene Aldana. So that's a tricky one. I still have Vieira in this one, but this is a good fight here.
I have Vieira in this one, but I'm so close to picking Yana Kunitskaya. I can't stress that enough. And for the fact that she is such a big underdog, I wouldn't be against if anyone put money on her. Like, it's not a terrible decision. I am going to stick with Katelyn, though. I just think that if the hype is true, and maybe I'm the one who doesn't have a read on this and everyone else knows it better than I do, it very well could be the case, but if Vieira can go out there, get the takedown, and just really implement her game plan, make Yana Kunitskaya feel her top pressure, really use your ground and pound to take away some of that cardio that Kunitskaya will have in that third round. I think she'll be able to get it done. But again, if Kunitskaya can defend takedowns and forces into a kickboxing fight, she has more than enough of opportunity to win this.
Cody Keller, I agree with you. I'm skipping this one. For me, I only have the cheddar on the 2. And then Curtis Blaydes taking on Derrick Lewis. I have the minus 400 favorite, Curtis Blaydes, in this fight.
Again, I wish Derrick Lewis... It'd be great if Derrick Lewis went out there, threw like a Jorge Masvidal flying knee, and he won the fight, but it's not going to happen. Like, Curtis Blaydes is insane at wrestling. He's pretty good defensively on the feet. I'm going to pick Blaydes. Again, Lewis is going to have an opportunity to win just because all of his fights, he ends up throwing that one big combination that hurts his opponent, and then he'll have a chance to finish him. But I just like the overall game of Blaydes a little bit more.
So one more time, Matt. Spivak, Rodriguez, Emmers, O'Neal. Again, not super sold on that one. We're split on... You've got Landwehr, I have Erosa. We both have... No, are we split
I have Wineland. You have Castaneda.
I have Castaneda. Then we both have Chavez. We both have Aspinall. We both have Imavov. We both have Dawkins. We're split on Minner and Rosa. We have Vieira. And then we both have Curtis Blaydes to round out the entire card. Matt, there's 14 fights coming up. They start somewhat soon. I'd say somewhat soon, but they push back the start time another half hour. So we're really looking forward to the card. We got some interesting stuff coming up for next week. Of course, you have the prediction videos. They should be out tomorrow. I'm going to start working on the graphics there today. But overall, a good card. There's another good card coming out next weekend. Diego saying any last-minute cancellations. Pena is not fighting Klose. Klose is out of that fight. So hopefully Luis Pena can get another fight, even though he's coming in on 8 days' notice. Do you have any other parting words, Matt?
No, just thanks for everyone for hanging out for the last hour and change. It's been fun.
Matt, well, hang out over FightNightPicks.com. There's some great merch over there. Support the sponsors. We got Manscaped. We've got Vertiball as well.
We have merch.
You can find merch. And I'm really looking forward to this one. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt.